Hello there, and welcome to Weird Music on the Glumburger channel. The strange music show that takes a different album each and every week, regardless of accessibility or not, right? This show pretty much reviews pretty much anything, I feel. Well, mostly anyway. So in today's episode, we're actually returning to Cardboard Club. We are keeping it card again, as we take another dive into their incredible extensive discography of nonsensical noisy records. Last time we took a look at this label, we reviewed Self Heimlich's I Have Anxiety, but that's okay, I think I deal with it pretty well most of the time. Two slabs of noisy humming that went, arguably nowhere, but was still, I found kind of interesting. In today's episode, we have a really nonsensical and ridiculous album. One that just bombards you with overwhelming and overloading noise, just people bashing their instruments rather than actually playing their feels. Something I wanted to review from this from label for quite some time, never got around to it until now. So today I present Placeholder Name by Band. So, of course, who are Band then? Well, I'm going to be cagey, and I'm going to reveal that later in the episode, because I actually had no idea, or maybe I had no memory of it, of who was in Band, essentially, when I sat down to review this one. It was a couple of weeks ago, actually. Looking it up after diving into it was quite a surprise to myself, actually. So, yeah, to be continued. Anyway, what is Placeholder Name then? Well, this is the band's one and only album, released on Cardboard Club as its 95th official release, featuring their customary scrawled album art and red pen on the yellow cassette aesthetic. And this completely balmy and rather dumb album for the most part is just nonsensical noise. It's just screaming and shouting while smashing your instruments over and over, calling the results songs, essentially. Very ridiculous, but I think it's really fun. So before we dive into it all, one of the first things I wrote about this one was that I don't think I'm going to be able to dissect it song by song. I do try in most of the reviews to go through each and every song on the album you look at, but certain albums I just find it impossible to, and this was one of them. I remember when it comes to Placeholder Name by Band, it being very much a loud, crazy, noisy excursion, more in line with Brian Giblet Gusset, which we reviewed many years ago by now. Just horrible, cataclysmic noise, essentially. In spite of that, though, of it being like that, I remember I always wanted to review this, though. Essentially, when I first checked out Cardboard Club, I purchased a couple of cassettes from them, including the aforementioned Self Heimlich, coupled by Terretorial Gobbing, Carnivorous Plants, and this one. And this was one I always wanted to cover, and I just never got around to writing about it or reviewing it until now. So let's find out why I wanted to review this then. So when Placeholder Name opens up, you just get a sudden smashing of drums before noise comes in, accompanied by what feels like spoken word, and then vocalizations sounding like strange warped cartoon characters offset by the drums and only accompanied by the weird bastardization of sound content. It's like you've got some weird circuit-bent occurrences against the backdrop of sporadic drums, not following a structure or even a context here. And that is what I remember about this album. Just this mostly nonsensical noise occurring in this overwhelming and bombarding context. Incredibly weird and uncomfortable, but I have to say, dare I say, is it a little bit fun though? It certainly does fall into the delusion of pure noise itself. This is a complete calamity of drums, vocals, and what I want to assume is maybe electronics or keyboards or something happening in amongst it. I have no idea because there's no indication of what's going on this record. But whatever it is, it's all just completely falling apart into itself, never following any form as it all occurs, and instead just indulging in these brief little moments of proto-pop, found beneath the rubble of discordance and noise. And as it always occurs, be there a more tangible vocal performance that that do pop up every now and then, to be fair, across this whole record, or maybe even the small semblance of a melody from the only other instrument that isn't the drums. It's just so bizarre. It does seem to mostly bounce around between the main two prominent parts of this being the vocals and the drums, with I think the vocals being the main focal point for many of the songs on this thing. Constantly just stretching into these weird sort of cartoon supervillains, it feels, sounding so silly and nonsensical. But regardless of it all, I find it so much fun though. I just find it really weirdly incomprehensible and balmy, and I just find myself really enjoying the noisy excursion as it all just whiz by. These brief little vignettes of cartoon characters fighting with household objects, essentially, and this horrible deluge of noise occurring all around it. It's a never-ending onslaught of horrible sounds occurring over and over and over, and they're never really ending or subsiding for the most part. At least until it all just eventually ends, which for us occurs when side A closes off. Which, to be fair, is a bit of a relief if you're unable to stomach anything more. The thing is, though, if you're listening to the physical cassette here, you're faced with the challenge of flipping it over and listening to side B, though, if you want to listen to the whole thing. And as somebody who did that, because I reviewed this directly from the cassette, actually, it was daunting. I was like, oh, do I really want to go through this again? But of course I do. I wanted to find out what's on side B. And on side B, when that starts, it feels like everything is way more chaotic somehow, with there being even more presence of those discordant keyboards or tones or whatever the hell they're supposed to be, right? They even seem to pull some very brief moments of actual song structures to the forefront of everything, only for a band to just unexpectedly drop the ball and turn it into that cataclysmic overload of pure noise once again. Thing is, I just find it so delightful though. I find myself so amused by the entire experience as it all goes past, with there being no real way for me to attach any semblance of understanding or context to what's occurring here. But I think it's kind of remarkable for just being exactly what it is and for just doing something like this. It results in something that's arguably bad, I want to say, but more importantly, I think it's just a lot of fun. When you try to get lost and just try to follow the sounds as they occur, you just find yourself greeted by something really ridiculous and stupid. And that's fun. It's really fun experiencing something like that, as it just reveals so many weird facets the more it all occurs, of course. And as well, everything on here, it's all just the same in an objective sense. Even in side B, you're technically not getting much different to side A, essentially. Just more of the same. But that's what we're here for. That's the ride we're strapped in for, to experience these people making these noises together. Because that's something you can go and do, if you wanted to. You can go and do some weird shit like this, because why not? And it's evident as well, with the performances on this release, that it's so delightful to do so. These people sound like they're having so much fun and a great time just making this racket, and it just I feel like they're just creasing up doing it. I can't help but imagine them just laughing constantly when they listen back to this thing and just delighting in it all. And I love that about it. I love the fact that it's the kind of thing that just really doesn't take itself seriously at all, because it doesn't need to, of course. Such is the way of music on Cardboard Club as a whole label, essentially. All of the music on there is just exactly what it is and nothing more. And it doesn't need to take itself seriously, because you can try to take it seriously, just be like, well, this is shit and stuff, and then you're not going to have any fun with it, of course. Or you can just enjoy it for what it is and just be like, this is ridiculously stupid. And in the case of Band, it's just so dumb, but so delightfully dumb. I think it's very admirable. I will say here, one thing that I think is actually helping my experience of this particular album when I was listening to it to review it, was actually listening to it directly from the cassette itself. It's weird, because I actually remember when I first checked this one out, listening to it on the Bandcamp app, I found myself actually unable to really stick with the whole experience for some reason. But oddly enough, the cassette has combined everything into one entire thing with no gaps. There's none of those slight skips that you often get on most media player apps. And as a result, this is just one whole long nonsensical experience that just runs straight into one another with barely any respite whatsoever. You just are strapped in and forced to endure the noise. And weirdly enough, I find it more enjoyable as a result. Like, it's being witnessed to a jam session of two individuals showing up for music practice that nobody has ever planned, intent on just making the biggest racket possible. Something about this completely illegible, noisy excursion just makes so much more sense when it comes from literal analog tape, it feels. And it's still incomprehensible as ever, of course. But I find it way more enjoyable for some reason. Like, it reminds me of every single weird rock music freakout that you get from, well, all kinds of bands in their songs sometimes, you know? Especially with how the vocals just travel so many different avenues, just screaming and whining away as the drums just clatter around it all. And even behind it, you've just got continuing instrumentals just noodling away, creating faint melodies or indulging in those horrible discordant frequencies. Like, it becomes music that is just never able to sit still even for a brief minute. There's always capturing something weird and nonsensical as it just continues to occur constantly, it feels. And you're given no breaks. You're just continually forced to listen to the car crash of music that's occurring on this release. And I think there is something so brilliant about that. Like, I do definitely think it's a release that is mostly pointless for the most part, but I do think there's some very neat elements here as well, don't get me wrong. Like, it does, as mentioned, remind me so much of the likes of Giblet Gusset Broken, which is, but it also reminds me kind of other things from Steep Gloss, like recently Teasel's Dreamt, which is an album we reviewed as well on the show. When it came to both of those albums, there was this element of a vocalist just trying to create any manner of sounds against the backdrop of noise and music coming from the rest of the collaborators here. And here, in the context of outside of performance art, you get something that captures a similar level of fascination, I feel. Especially as it all goes along, you just become more and more enamoured with the bizarre vocals just occurring constantly against each and every track. Like, half the time, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense what's going on, what is being said, or why it even sounds the way it does. But there is something weirdly brilliant about that as a result, like the entire album just pushing forth with absolutely no care for anybody who would be foolish enough to listen to something like this. Something very in keeping with Cardboard Club's general aesthetic of noisy, chaotic releases. And it kind of reminds me of, as well, even sort of like the sort of harsh wall of noise experience that you got from Self Heimlich's It's Okay, I Suffer from Anxiety, but that's okay, I think I do it pretty well most of the time, you know? Even with that album, there was this sort of general sense of indulging with pure noise itself, right? And here, with the aptly titled Band, we're giving a chaotic music session that makes as much noise as it can in such an oddly short space of time. I think it is so weird and fascinating, and I can remember why I wanted to cover this one now that I've dived into it so much, essentially. Like, there's something so simultaneously fun and dumb about something like this, and I feel that deserves to be celebrated. In spite of how mostly unlistenable the whole thing is, it's just amazing for being exactly what it is, essentially, and that's what's more important to me. These individuals, whoever the hell they are, having fun making all of this nonsensical noise, essentially, because it's funny and fun to do so, right? Like, I think there's something great about that. It's why, to be fair, whenever I get the push to actually start writing about something, I always just try to follow that vibe, because otherwise I won't get around to reviewing half the stuff I wanted to. And I've always wanted to review this one, and I'm glad I did, because I've had so much fun writing about and talking about this one. And to be fair, I don't think it gets much weirder than this, right? Like, it's the kind of outside the level of noise that most people are going to avoid, because, to be fair, why would you want to listen to this? There's no structure, there's no form, no melodies, no tunes, not even any beat to properly follow along to. It's just noise battering away for a half hour because it's something that you can choose to do. I think that's amazing. So, of course, I mentioned that we would talk about who is bands, though. Like, who is responsible for this horrible, noisy, chaotic deluge? So, prior to diving into this album, I had no idea who was involved in making this album. Like, as I mentioned, I did check this one out many years ago when I first discovered Cardboard Club, and I may have known them and they're forgotten. But in any case, I must have forgotten about it if that was the case. So after writing everything I'd just done, I thought that best to look into it and so we can have a little discussion about it. And when I found out who was responsible for this, it was like a switch was flicked on, and suddenly everything made more sense than ever. Band is a moniker for a specific branch of music, it seems, from both Hilary Knott and Theo Gallant, also known as Basic Switches and Terretorial Gobbing respectively, or also known to us on Weird Music as Garbage Pail Kids, which we have looked up on the channel before. After finding this out, it was like a penny dropping moment and just a complete like, oh, now I see, now I get it. Knowing this makes so much more sense, and a whole bunch more questions being asked too. It kind of answers the question to me of what would it sound like if Knott and Gallants tried to form a band that actually tried to play actual music. It results in something that is very typically them. Horrible, caustic and overwhelming and noisy to the nth degree. Like in my head, the scenario would be both Knott and Gallants causing absolute chaos in the school music rooms and being told, behave, stop making noise with these broken electronics and play the actual instruments. And so, when they do decide to do that, it results in this. It results in Gallants smashing the drum kit repeatedly in whatever order he sees fit, while Knott just screams and shouts over the entire thing, essentially. Just smashing the keyboard in a weird series of tones that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. Like, it's the story that I envision in my head. Like, I don't think it's true at all, but it just really amuses me, hence why I'm saying it. Like, no basis for reality, but too funny not to think about. Because, like, to be fair, I do get the impression of these two just always doing their own thing when it comes to their creation of music. And I think it's why I'm so drawn towards it, despite it being so caustic. Like, they're much more interested in the sort of overwhelming chaos of noise that results from just clattering objects together, recording in very lo-fi ways and seeing what happens next. And when it comes to their solo endeavours, or their collaborative projects, in particular to Garbage Pail Kids, which, as mentioned, we've reviewed on the channel before, it's just always this horrible onslaught of manic fervent noise, just screaming out loud to amuse oneself, it seems. And then to kind of, do an offshoot of it in the form of Band here, like this one album, this one particular project under this one particular moniker, which kind of eschews their sort of formalities of just like broken down electronics to actually play something. Like, it breaks my brain a bit, but I think there's something brilliant about it. Like, I have to say, like, when it comes to all of their stuff, I'm kind of just always blown away and shocked by and just end up in a stunned daze whenever I sit down to listen to their music, whatever it may be, to be fair. And Placeholder Name by BAM, it might just be one of their funniest releases, I think. This unrelenting energy that never lets up for a single second, just constantly bombarding you left, right and centre with this cataclysmic destruction of music. What a wonderful thing this is. And so I think with that, we will come to the end of our episode of Weird Music. Another nonsensical, weird as shit, mostly unlistenable and rather abrasive experience, right? Am I expecting viewers of the show to like it? No. But are Gallants not expecting people to like this? Also probably no, right? I've always found that notion irrelevant when it comes to what I do and don't review on this show, essentially. Like, the fact is, this exists. This is something you can own a physical copy of, like I've got in my hand here. And something you can decide to spend time listening to if it's something you want to do. And I like it for that. I enjoy it for that reason, as well as the fact that it's so completely stupid and fun as a result. Wonderfully pointless and just enjoyable on that level. In any case, if you have made it this far, then I would like to thank you for watching today's episode of Weird Music. I hope you've enjoyed this very silly episode. Sometimes it's just nice to have fun checking out some pointlessly dumb stuff, I feel. Plus, as mentioned, I've wanted to review this one for ages now, so I'm really glad I've taken the time to talk about Band. With that, though, I wish you all the best. Take care, and bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.